Money is good for one thing and one thing only. It gives you options. That's it. That's all it's good for.
Options.
That's it. It just gives you options.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to put myself in a position where I could pick an option of walking away from my old life. Another thing too, Alisha, is when you get to your mid-40s, I didn't want to look back on my life book and it'd be all the same chapters. I didn't want to, I could have very easily stayed in Hawaii, rinse, repeat all the way until I retire.
Rinse, repeat.
I wanted the rest of the chapters of my book to have different flavors. And I wanted to continue to see if I could push and expand myself as a business person. And I realized in Hawaii, I was kind of like bumping up against the ceiling. Coming over here, I realized there's so many other options. There's more branches on the tree here.
Welcome to Black Aristocrat, where kings and queens beam and get seen.
Black Aristocrat, we here. Yes.
Welcome to Black Aristocrat. I am here today with the king of discipline, Charles Spainhower. I want to thank you for coming on to Black Aristocrat. What I do here at Black Aristocrats is try to honor kings and queens, meaning those that I feel have gained some level of success in society, in life, and in the things that they do. Turns out a lot of them are, I think, just like you, God-fearing individuals. And I just want you to share your story with others based off of just what you do. And so we're going to start by just taking it way back. I just want to talk a little bit. I want you to tell me a little bit about where you grew up.
I was born and raised in Hawaii. I grew up in the suburbs, typical suburbs upbringing. I like to use the word fortunate. I used to say blessed a lot, but I also like to use the word fortunate. I was very fortunate growing up. I started with having really, really good parents. I was very blessed to have really, really good parents.
Two-family household?
My parents, up until the time my dad passed away, were still married. Both my parents were very hard workers. They were entrepreneurs before the word entrepreneur was so commonly, it gets tossed out a lot nowadays.
Yes.
But my parents were entrepreneurs before anybody even used the E word.
What did they do? What type of entrepreneurs? You name it.
We ran a termite and pest control company. We had a video store before Blockbuster gobbled everybody up.
Yes.
We had a nursery. We used to sell flowers to the grocery stores. And like most entrepreneurs, they tried a accounting service, a power washing mildew company, anything to see what could get traction.
Right.
Same thing with this podcast, right? You like we were saying before, you don't know until you try.
Right.
You don't know until you step out and give it a shot. That's what most people don't realize. The definition of an entrepreneur is a risk taker. That's what it is. So
you gotta be, right?
So I was very lucky. My parents, growing up, my parents were hard workers. They were risk takers. They literally showed me, not by telling me, but just by living their life. They showed me the right way to do things, if that makes sense.
Yes, well, a little bit. Like you can expand on that as far as what it is in your mind. What does that look like to you? What is the right way to do things? What is and so Charles Spainhower, who's become this phenomenal real estate investor with all these properties.
I don't know about that.
I mean, you are phenomenal. I mean, you know, just to and I can't wait to tell everybody more about that, to expand upon that. But what does that? What does that mean to do things right to you? What does that look like, and what is that like for you right now in your life?
I mean, just being professional, being mature, being an adult, showing up on time. If you're going to say you're going to do something, follow through with it. Be a person that people know they can count on you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I like to live my life where people know they can trust me and they can count on me. I think that's what doing it right is what I.
Well, that's relationship building, and I can appreciate that. So, mom and dad were basically, it sounds like serial entrepreneurs, what we would call serial entrepreneurs.
But back then, they were just self-employed. You know, we didn't use entrepreneur. We never used words like that.
Right.
I don't think I even started using the E word till about maybe 10 years ago. Prior to that, I used to refer to myself as being self-employed. There's other people that started to refer to me as entrepreneur. Then I remember when I moved here, people would refer to me as an investor. I thought that was I've never thought of myself as an investor. But so I was very lucky, very lucky. I had a really good upbringing.
So was that upbringing, was that like dinner on the table every night?
Old school, my
single family home or
single family. Well, my like a lot of multi-generational families. My mom's parents lived with us.
Okay.
Up until I think I was in a little past high school.
Okay.
So I was lucky to have. On hindsight, I wish I had spent more time with them. But when you're little, grandparents is, grandparents. But yeah, I grew up, my grandparents lived with us till about a little after high school.
Unless you're like my grandparent, like the grandparent I am, like I'm in my grandkids' life. And they're like, oh, my grandma's so cool. Come eat lunch with me. Come do this.
My granddaughter loves me. She loves me.
She loves you, right? Yeah, I heard you had a good relationship with your granddaughter because we know they're just so important to us. Well, let me tell you why I chose to have you. I kind of touched on it a little bit, but the things that I am most proud of you about is your mindset. And so I want you to share with folks that mindset, that discipline, that fitness journey that you've been on, a little bit about, what makes you tick. When you wake up, how do you stay motivated to continue to, keep your mind in order? And I know you have a good relationship with God. And then I love that you're just like masculine and male. And
I'm old school.
So I want to go past that because I got to reel you in here. So we went from the parents and growing up in a good upbringing in a decent, and so was this like a middle class? Is this like beyond, above middle class?
No, at the time we were middle class. The house that my parents ended up making our family home, it was a little bit of a stretch for them, but at the time it was middle class. And well, I grew up in a neighborhood. They were all middle class workers, a lot of small business owners. A lot of foremans or supervisors. So you could say maybe a little, but back then we didn't think like that. It wasn't upper class, middle class. We were all just neighbors and we would just, wash our cars on Sunday and barbecue on Friday night. And it was when I was little, it was pre-internet. It was different.
Okay.
But to answer your question, at the time it was probably middle class, maybe a little, if you want to call it that.
So I love it that you shared with us a little bit about how it was growing up there. What do you think about growing up the way you did impacts your life today the most?
Well, Hawaii is kind of unique because it's a very small island in the middle of the Pacific.
Which island in Hawaii?
I grew up on the main island, Oahu.
Okay, Oahu.
There's a handful of islands, Oahu's being the main one where Waikiki's at.
Okay.
I grew up in a suburb on the west side.
Okay.
Growing up in Hawaii is unique because, like, if you grow up like in a borough of Brooklyn, you're kind of isolated in other cities, but Hawaii is like really isolated.
Okay.
It's a 6.5 hour flight just to get to the West Coast. So people in Hawaii, we have a little bit of a fishbowl way of thinking because we're out there by ourselves.
Okay.
So I'm sure that had some effect on, me as a child. We had a lot of people coming in, tourists.
That's what I'm
a lot of Hawaii's people don't realize how heavily militarized Hawaii is. A lot of military.
I learned that once. There was I dated someone whose family, sister, and they were from Hawaii, and they're a military family. And then I was like, oh, and then that's how I learned that there was a lot of military.
A lot of
there.
military bases.
Okay, yeah.
But I think that had some effect on my upbringing. But again, I was very fortunate. I grew up a lot of family. I come from a big family.
Like how big?
Oh man, a lot.
Share with us.
A lot of aunties, a lot of uncles, a lot of and in Hawaii we have a very we're very family culture oriented.
Okay.
So everybody is auntie or uncle.
Everybody.
all my training partners is Uncle Charles, Uncle Mike. You know, all my students. We used to come and train on the mats. Uncle Charles, my daughter would refer to my coach as Uncle Jason. It's very, very family oriented.
And are you family? So are you surrounded by family now? Like
I'm completely isolated by myself out here.
I thought so. I was like, wait a minute. How do you go from like total family?
Well, I have my daughters here and my 2 grandkids are here.
Okay.
And a good portion of my daughter's mom's family is here. So they've kind of adopted me. I've known my daughter's moms. I've known them for a long, long time.
Okay.
I even met some of her family before I even met the mom.
Oh, okay.
And then my son-in-law, he has a pretty big family here too. So they kind of like treat me like family.
So it keeps you there. Yeah. So I just got to ask, what kind of food? I just want to know what kind of food is in Hawaii. I don't know anything about Hawaii. So this is like a huge lesson.
A lot of Asian food.
Oh, Asian food?
A lot of Japanese, Chinese, Korean, real good Asian. There's Polynesian food. Like poi and kalua pig and stuff like that.
Wow.
But most of Hawaii, it's a lot of Asian food.
Okay.
A lot of fresh fish. A lot of
because of the water, huh?
And a lot of fresh produce too, because the weather's perfect year round. So we can grow amazing fruits and vegetables year round.
Okay.
We don't go into deep freezes in Hawaii.
Oh, I did not know. See? And so you learn something every day. What about church? Is it like a big part of life there, or?
I don't want to talk politics, but unfortunately, Hawaii is a very, very liberal democratic state. There's churches. There's churches. It's not as celebrated as it is here in Texas.
Because it's the Bible Belt.
But even all religions.
Oh, okay.
All religions are, I've seen a Jewish temple, the Islamic temple, and some other Korean church.
I'm talking about in general.
All religions are welcomed and celebrated here. The practice of having a faith is very accepted here.
Right.
I'm not saying that Hawaii is anti. It's just different.
It's a little bit different. So basically you didn't really grow up in church, but did you come to have a relationship with God at some point?
My mom sent me and my sister to church to do the routine. I was actually, I was a Royal Ranger for years, which is a Christian Boy Scout. Oh. Yeah. That's how I learned how to tie knots and build shelters and stuff like that. So
you said it's a Christian Boy Scout?
I think somebody told me.
I went to Girl Scout camp, so
somebody told me they're still around.
Okay,
but it's
Royal Ranger.
It's the same as Boy Scouts. Everything's the same, but it's for Christian.
Okay,
through the churches, uniform badges. Ever had the whole thing? Yeah,
I have my little stash with all my badges.
But I didn't grow up in religion, though. That is something I found on my own.
Okay,
in my mid-20s when I was trying to find myself.
Yeah. So how did you get to the States? Where was the transition? Did you go to high school?
My daughter's mom settled here in Texas.
Okay.
And she would commute back and forth summer, spring break. The last year or two, she came to live with me. It's very hard to make it in Hawaii. And my daughter wanted to live the American dream, right? Have a nice house in the suburbs, send your kids to nice, clean schools, work one job, and pay all your bills. So at some point, she's having a hard time in Hawaii, and she said, Dad, I want to go back to Texas and, give us. And I said, Kristen, I don't blame you. So I was 100% supportive.
How did you make the trek? I started
to visit her.
Oh,
And when I visit a place, I have a tendency to talk to other business owners. You know, I'll walk into a store. You the owner, how's business? You get a feel. And I started to realize right away that Texas is a very business entrepreneur friendly state, and not just for big city. Not so like places like Hawaii. Again, I don't want to trash Hawaii.
Oh yeah, no.
They're big business friendly.
Big tourist, right? Tourism and
Target, Walmart, Home, all the big companies.
Okay.
I heard states like Jersey are very big business friendly, but Texas is across the board. All including small business, even if it's just one man and a truck.
Right.
The rules and the regulations here in Texas really foster and encourage business and entrepreneurship at all levels. And that appealed to me. Then I started to do the math and I realized that if I moved to Texas, I could retire at 47, which is that's every man's dream, to retire early. Yeah. So I thought about it, did some praying for a year or two, and I pulled the trigger. And I just completely walked away from my old life.
And what was that like? So just before we get to Texas, because I got to I'm trying to get from Hawaii to Texas. What were you doing in Texas at the time? Did you go to college, or like where was that? You grew up, you got out the house. Tell me what you were doing.
One of the parts of my story that people really would say I should emphasize is the fact that I didn't graduate from college. Okay.
I had a GED. So you're talking to a girl with a GED,
I was a
okay?
C average student, barely made it out of high school. Hated math. Academic, real world math, I love.
Because you did the math.
Yeah. But academic math, I can't stand. I just thought.
Me neither.
By Hawaii standards, I had a really good life. My primary residency, I had a beautiful house up in the mountains. I could overlook the ocean. I ran a small terminite pest control company. I did consulting. Then I started to pick up rentals. But I put myself in a position, as you know, money is good for one thing and one thing only. It gives you options. That's it. That's all it's good for.
Options.
That's it. It just gives you options.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to put myself in a position where I could pick an option of walking away from my old life. Another thing too, Alisha, is when you get to your mid-40s, I didn't want to look back on my life book and it'd be all the same chapters. I didn't want to, I could have very easily stayed in Hawaii, rinse, repeat all the way until I retire.
Rinse, repeat.
I wanted the rest of the chapters of my book to have different flavors. And I wanted to continue to see if I could push and expand myself as a business person. And I realized in Hawaii, I was kind of like bumping up against the ceiling. Coming over here, I realized there's so many other options. There's more branches on the tree here than in Hawaii. The business tree only got so many branches. Okay. Here, there's so many branches. And like I said, the state is very business entrepreneur friendly. So I was like, F it. Let's do this. Okay. I'm out of here.
So you went from the termite and pest control company, and I gotta ask, right? Because you had this very good life. Did you have like the Donald Trump, like here's $1 million and get started from your family, or did you actually money from your family, or did you?
One of the things my mom is very proud about me is I did everything on my own.
Okay.
I originally started working for one of the family business, which is termite pest control. Okay. But it got to the point where small business can only teach you so much. And my parents couldn't afford to pay me more. So I actually left my family's business and I went to go work for Terminix International. Okay. And I was there for a little under 2 years. I worked commission only sales. Making about 15% commission, which by commission standards is pretty good. But again, I did the math and I realized if I start my own business, I could be making 30 to 60%. So I quit Terminix, started my own business, was just me in a truck but I did follow along the family's foot because I thought if it works of all the different businesses my parents tried, the termite pest control was the most successful. Yeah. It's not glamorous.
Yeah, but this is amazing. I love this.
It's I had a customer in Hawaii. The family owned a porta potty business.
Mm-hmm. I order porta potties.
Not glamorous.
No.
But they did really, really well.
Mm-hmm. I keep them on my land, like my raw land, wherever I have raw land and I don't have the plumbing or the sewerage that I purchase. I get them delivered and they come and clean them up every week. And then I pay for that, like on a monthly basis. It's not cheap. But yeah, so I could see how it.
But I loved it though. I love working with my hands. I love getting dirty. I mostly focus on doing pre-treats for subdivisions. I realized I was better off focusing my energy on hunting elephants than mice.
Oh, yes. It's a book I'm reading, 2X, 10X is better than 2X. So I love that. Go ahead. Tell me about that.
Everybody structures their business. Even as a lawyer, you specialize, right? Doctor, everybody specializes. I realized focusing on pre-treats and doing this, plus doing a lot of inspections and stuff, I could still get paid without having to actually touch chemicals. So I found a little groove.
Everybody gets the termite inspections before with the real property before they purchase a home, or at least they should. And then obviously there's the follow up because there's just that is I love that. I didn't even know about that. So you took the termite business and you came on to Texas you were still in the termite business?
No, that I left.
Oh, you left that in Hawaii?
So
you got to tell me how we got to the bag, okay?
So I realized
acquiring minds.
You're making so many dollars an hour, right? $10 an hour. And the goal is to get to 40, whatever. And I was increasing my value, getting up to the point where I was charging, my minimum charge was about $125 an hour. I heard Mark Cuban make a quote one day. He said, the wealthy people, they learn how to make money while they're sleeping, while they're at brunch, and while they're on vacation.
Okay.
That's where assets come in. And when he said that, the light bulb went off in my head because I realized even as like the biggest hotshot lawyer in New York City, he's making 20 grand an hour. He still has to work. So when Mark Cuban said, basically by acquiring assets, stocks, real estate, I thought, okay. Also, too, I was talking to my CPA one day, and in Hawaii, I was a very high income earner. And I had my daughter was out of college. I had no write-offs. I had no debt because I pay cash for everything. He's like, dude, if you don't start figuring out what to do with this money, you're going to have to pay more taxes.
What a problem to have, right?
So, but first world problems.
Yeah.
That's why when people ask me nowadays, how am I doing? I don't complain because what am I going to say? I'm going to cry about owning too many homes. It's insulting.
Yeah.
So several people recommended, why don't you pick up a rental property? So it's like having a child. It's a great place to dump money. You get write-offs, deductions.
Yeah.
That'll offset my high income. And then eventually it will turn into my first rental. I think I broke even. And then I think I started making like $50 a month, little gas money. But I had acquired the asset. Okay. And it was, at that time, it was doing what it was supposed to do. Okay. Which was help me deal with the taxes. Also, when I talked to my financial advisor, because I had to pull some money from the stock market.
So this was all from the termite company.
Yeah, so
you were killing the game with the termites.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, because people they have no idea. They look around. They may turn their noses up and they may think they have no idea that you can make that type of living.
But like anything, like you and I talked over the phone, you got to put the work in. And I was a ferocious worker. I mean, son, I was
sales skills off the Richter scale,
and working too. I was a working boss. I had the clipboard, I had the boots. I didn't sit, so I was out every day working. And I loved working hard. I loved earning. I don't want to poop on the younger generations, but
poop on the young generation.
I love working hard, but. The bad part is my parents taught me to live below my means.
It sounds like it because I'm thinking
because I never made a lot of money, but I always tell people, look, if you make 80 grand a year and you live off of 50, that's $30,000 you can save and invest.
Ooh.
So I started doing that from the very, very beginning. So it doesn't matter how little I was making. I always learned to put something on the side.
Okay.
Put something on the side. And as my income increased, I kept my lifestyle the same. So even though my spending stayed the same, as my income increased, I kept saving that difference. Saving it, investing it, reinvesting it.
Like what kind of car were you driving?
So a good example of living below your means is if you can afford to buy an $80,000 car, I would buy a $45,000 car.
In cash?
Yeah. I've never had a car payment.
You are so good. You are so good.
I've never had a car.
Oh my goodness. So,
and then when the construction boom is on, the money's come in, same thing. All my buddies were buying Porsches and fishing boats. I took my family on a trip, but I always kept saving that money. I rode so how I got to the bag. I rode the construction. You remember we coming out of the late 90s, right? Mid 90s interest rates were like 12, 14%.
Yes.
People crying out about 7.75%.
That's what I'm saying. And when I bought my first house.
12.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
I rode that construction boom all the way up until the subprime meltdown in 07.
07, 08. Yep.
So 07, 08, 09.
Yep.
So then all my friends had to sell their mansions, they had to sell their yachts, and they had to sell their Porsches. Every now and then in history, real estate takes sharp dips.
Yeah. It's cyclical. It's up and down.
When 07 hit, prices dropped. And I picked up all that money I'd been hoarding and saving, investing.
Yes.
That's when I started to spend. And that's when I started picking up rentals.
Wow. And so by this, okay, so let's talk about the first one. So your CPA and they were like, man, you got to do something with this money.
I found a realtor that would basically hold my hand and walk me through the process. I had a landlord mentor, Tracy Hargrave. Mentors,
they keep coming up. We just heard that in the other segment, and how important mentors are. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that.
That's the camera, right?
That's your camera.
Mentors. You gotta have mentors. Anything you want to pursue in life, sports, academics, whatever, you have to find people that are higher up the food chain than you. And you have to hang around them. First of all, you have to earn their time.
Yes.
Because people like you and I, we don't like wasting our time and energy.
Well, because people just call you up and say, hey, I would like you to mentor me. And you're like,
no, you're a waste of time. You're a total waste of time.
You're like, you mean, can you assist me and help me achieve something that I'm trying to achieve and learn from me while we're doing that? That would be more of a better way to do that. Or you can hang around me and learn, but I don't have I'm not going to call you to tell you to come hang around
because,
me. Yeah.
Because people like us, our free time is very, very limited. And we don't like to waste time and energy.
There's no time to waste.
There's no time to waste. So I found a good landlord mentor. She took me under. I earned her trust. And she helped me walk.
How'd you earn that? How'd you go about that? How did you find her?
I did everything she told me to do. I had a situation once where one of my training partners was getting divorced. And he was renting one of my places. He wanted to bring his dog in. My landlord mentor said, Charles, no pets, you'll be fine. And he was arguing his case, and I went to her to ask her, and I kept trying to argue my case. And she kept telling me, well, why, so finally I could see in her eyes, she was like, okay. She basically said, Charles, you're going to do what you're going to do anyhow. And we changed this. We talked about other stuff. We parted ways. And then months go by. I did exactly what she told me to do. I told him he couldn't have his dog in the crate, whatever. And then he vacated. And then I bumped into her later. And we're talking our usual chit chat. And she goes, oh, by the way, what did you do with your buddy situation with the dog? I looked her in the eye and I said, I did exactly what you told me to do. And she looked, and I saw this little light bulb in the back of her eyes. Yes. Like this door open, like, oh, okay. Now I'm going to show you. Now we're going to get down to the meat. So I think in situations like that, I think I earned her time.
Yes. Yes.
And she basically, and some other people too. And I, again, when I work termite and pest control, I have all kinds of clients.
Okay.
Doctors, lawyers, brain surgeons, and a lot of them were, they had rentals.
Okay.
So I picked their brain. It's just little pieces here and there and stuff like that. And I managed all my rentals in Hawaii by myself up until the time I moved.
So you started buying the properties. And so what did that process look like? So of course you had the money, so you didn't have to go to the bank to get loans?
I always put, I always put a minimum of 20% down.
Okay.
Because you mortgage insurance and you buy your equity.
So you did use lenders?
Always.
Okay. You didn't, because cash is king. A lot of people, and so I was listening to Ramsey last night. Well, you know how that goes. And it's always like, I've had bankruptcy like 3 times. And because I was over leveraged in real estate. This is Ramsey himself. I know this only because I studied it in bankruptcy law area. But then they're like, pay this off, do cash. And I'm just like, I can see how that could work. But there was some advice that was given last night to this guy who had like all this cash. And I'm like, but cash is king. Like lenders want to know that you can service the debt. And so it's interesting that you went ahead and utilized.
Well, I think it's a combination of both.
Okay.
You come heavy with a big down payment.
Okay. Yeah, big down payment makes a difference.
Take advantage of the banks. As long as the numbers are there. There's something on, I think it's Instagram, one of those things, where he goes around asking like successful people. And one of the things I notice is that a lot of them say that they wish that when they were younger or they started their careers, they were more aggressive in borrowing money.
Leverage, basically.
A lot of them were very adverse to debt. And I noticed some of them have a common theme like, man, when I was younger, if I knew what I knew, I would have borrowed more because I would have ended up, So I think we're both right. Cash is king, but good debt is still good debt. Just don't mistake good debt for bad debt. That's where it can get tricky. So to answer your question, I do both.
Okay.
I have bought their properties cash outright if it's worth it. But most of the time, I'll come heavy to the table and then borrow the rest from the bank.
Exactly. So but that puts you in a big position. And so when you say that, so does credit play a part in that as well? Like how do you feel about the credit scores and things like that?
Credit scores are very important, even for people like me, because it's going to dictate the interest rates that the banks give you. But I think for the average person, credit's very, very important because it affects them in everything. For me, it doesn't affect a lot of things because I don't play with those numbers. I just focus on the bigger numbers at the top. But the average person, they're looking at all their numbers. And the credit score is, I think it's important.
So for those of you who may not know, this is Charles Spainhower. He is a real estate investor. And we were talking about his story about he got started from the bottom and raised himself up. Is it safe to say that you're self-made?
All the properties I've ever acquired, including my very first primary, my parents never helped me. They offered to give me some money to buy my first. So I said, Mom, I'm good. I'll figure it out. Self-made. Is anybody really self-made? I mean, the list of people that have influenced me, helped me, held my hand. My right hand man. I mean, back in Hawaii, what I would never have gotten as far as I did if he wasn't at my side.
Okay, I love that.
So yeah. I don't know. Self.
A little too much. A little bit too much.
I've never had all my business transactions. I've done myself. I've never had business partners. No silent partner, no wife, no girlfriend. I've basically done it from my checkbook.
Okay, I'm not gonna get on that one with you yet, Charles.
What, the fact that I've never been married?
Yeah, you didn't want your assets to go away.
People like me, it's hard charging, overachieving type A personalities are hard to swallow.
Oh, you made me laugh out loud.
They're hard to swallow.
Oh my gosh, you made me laugh out.
And you know this. And you know this, Alisha. People hard charging, overachieving, perfectionist, type A people. There's a lot of benefits that come with us.
I just lost it over here.
But there's some drawbacks. There's drawbacks to us.
I'm so sorry. I had to laugh at that. So you did tell me. So what about the education? Because I know one thing about being an investor is you have to learn to evaluate those numbers. Did you do that all with mentors, or were there certain classes or things that you took? Although, because you and I both, we had non-traditional education, we did it a different route, right? But even still, we figured it out. So, how do you learn to evaluate a property? And just tell me, can you just share a little bit about what that process is like in case there's any young folks coming behind you?
Let me go back to the beginning.
Okay, love it.
I always tell people, I was very fortunate. My parents taught me to be a seeker of knowledge. I always tell young people that I mentor, we can't change our skin color or how we were raised or our height or shoe size, none of that. Mm-hmm. But you can decide how much knowledge you have in your head. Nothing stops that.
Amen.
If you want to spend all your time reading books or watching TV, that's up to you. So I learned a long time ago to be a ferocious seeker of knowledge.
Yes.
I will just literally, when I do have free time, I don't spend time entertaining myself. I focus on educating myself.
Me too.
Don't watch sports. Don't play fantasy football. Don't play video games. I barely watch TV. I might watch a movie maybe one every other year. Mm-hmm. If I'm not working or training or focusing on investing, I'm finding something I can absorb. Even coming on this podcast is I'm here partial selfish reasons because I want to be able to learn from different people. I also want to learn by me coming here, being in front of the camera and doing this.
Yes,
I get to learn about myself. Mm-hmm. So I always tell young people, make knowledge your superpower. Because that's the one thing you have full control over.
Yes.
I don't care how tall you're born short, whatever, it doesn't matter. Nothing is stopping you from just reading, listening to podcasts. Yes. I've transitioned from books to listening. A good buddy of mine is a training partner of mine. He's big on ebooks. Mm-hmm. I'll lay down and just listen to podcasts, hearing some astrophysicists talk to economists.
Oh, yeah.
And have these two argue. Man, you have any idea the kind of knowledge you can pull from two big brains duking it out? I mean,
I get that from my son. He listens to the astrophysicists and all these brilliant minds. My son who went to Columbia University, and I love it. I even like Rogan, even though Rogan's more of a comedian, but I like that dialect that they have.
Open-minded.
Yeah.
And a bunch of open-minded people willing to at least listen to what another person has to say.
Exactly.
Instead of just automatically, as soon as you hear something you don't like, you just slam the door shut. Your mind's never going to grow like that. So
I love that. So keep on.
As far as investing, I was taught if you want to get good at something, you go find the experts for that. If I want to be a world-class powerlifting bench presser, you don't hang around the marathon runners. Okay. You go hang around the guys benching heavy. I thought, okay, well, if I want to get into this real estate thing, I better go start finding me some people that are good now, have a proven track record at investing in the stock market or real estate. And then I just go find them and I just keep bugging them until they give me what I want, and I just keep learning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, education-wise, academics, I was never, I felt suffocated in high school.
I think it's the confinement because you're getting the academics, right? You're getting it. You're just seeking the knowledge for yourself.
Well, I think people like you and I, we don't like taking orders. We don't like being told what to do. I don't know.
It was definitely difficult because it's someone like me over the Christmas, the holiday break. We had about 2 weeks. I probably got about 5 certifications in 2 weeks just because I wanted to hit it running as an instructor. I wanted to make sure I knew we're coming into short sale foreclosures. I wanted to get the SFR designation. Seniors, we're about to, trekking on having the most the military. I know the whole thing. Let me tell you, I did the absolutely. And so I got MRP, the military, just like you said. See, that's why I know, you know.
What else do you do with your free time?
What do I do?
Watch TV.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm watching some British aristocrat shows like The Tudors and White Queen and White Princess, but I'm watching it because it's my whole thing.
I have my little slice where but yeah.
You kind of got to do it a little bit,
large.
but not all the time. No, you won't see me. I get a day to veg out if I choose to veg out, and I usually don't even take a full day to veg out because I don't have a day to do that. So I love this. So this knowledge that you got and you sought out and you continue to seek out to become better and better.
You have to.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, how many properties are you in now? Like, so I know you've had a lot. I know you've been in and out.
Right now, I currently have 8 here in Texas, and I have 2 left in Hawaii.
Okay, so
my next acquisition more than likely is probably going to be in Anna, because the boom is not
Melissa, Anna, yeah,
Anna, Melissa, Sherman, maybe, and then
Sherman. You got T.I. coming.
Well,
yes,
it's not just T.I., but I've been talking to a lot of realtors up in Sherman, and Sherman they want T.I. to be the first. They want to revitalize Sherman in a way where it's like the cute Texas town, but at the same time, they're like a little mini hub for tech.
Like Austin.
Yeah. So they got plans, and
I pay attention. The reason I pay attention to the growth and development, and also I run numbers differently, studying for the CCIM, which is like the highest designation in commercial real estate. And it's something I've been just going after for some years.
Thinking about commercial too.
So I study those trends and put those numbers together based on the demographics and based on the fact that if you've got something like TI coming, then you've got to have housing, right? You've got to have places for people to live. You got to have grocery stores. You have to have places for people to shop. And so when we think about real estate that way, it just makes all the sense, right? So yes, you have to think about it in what comes. What does that movement of a big corporation, meaning jobs, have to do? Well, you got the jobs. Where are the people going to come from? How much of a radius are people willing to drive? What are the school districts like there? And all of that matters. And I'm sure you do, because this is how we have to stay on top of the game.
The problem right now is that the oversaturation of rental properties. So that's the part that gets tricky. But I mean, taking
here, because everybody's got money.
Well, you got to remember too. You got to remember too, now, Alisha. Think about this.
Not everybody, but it seems like everybody. Everybody I know. I'm so sorry.
You have all these people leaving. I don't want to talk politics. But they're literally bailing from these liberal democratic coastal states, and they're all flooding into the Midwest. People don't. It's not just Texas. Oklahoma's blowing up. I've been talking to a realtor in Kansas. That's an option. Louisiana, Arkansas, just Texas and the Metroplex. We just happen to be the tip of the spear.
Well, you can get cheaper. Texas is kind of, you got to have a price point. Yeah. Your price point needs to be up here, and even to invest.
But everybody is flooding here. So I'm trying to. One of the reasons why I left Hawaii and came here was, one of my goals was to see if I could take what was my side hustle in Hawaii and make it my full-time job here.
Okay.
So I moved here in 2017, May. I've been here about 6.5 years, coming up on 7. I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there.
Okay.
Property tax is killing me, but I'm hanging in there.
Okay.
I've looked at other options. Franchising, like the laundromats, Brazilian. I had heavy talks with Smoothie King. I even hired a franchise consultant ran me through a whole psych eval, but I was doing some heavy praying one night, and well, for lack of a better term, basically, I was waiting. He finally answers me, and I said, "Okay, God, what do you want me to do?" And so finally he answers. He goes, "Well, what do you not want to do?" And I was like, "Okay." I said, "Well, honestly, God, I really don't want to go back to work. I like being." Because when I first moved here, I referred to myself as semi-temporary retired. I looked at other options. So he's like, "Okay, well then, since you're so into this real estate thing, and it's okay, and you seem to have some degree of success in it, why don't you just go with that?" And I said, "Okay." So I said right there and there that night, I'm going to triple down on real estate. Everything else, I have one or two things I might keep on the side to look at, but a lot of, as you know, you can only have so many things on the table.
Right.
At some point, you have to start pushing stuff off the table.
Yep, absolutely.
You got to narrow it down to just a couple of key plates of food.
Exactly.
The buffet is overwhelming. You just got to start. And so that's what I did recently. I was just really tightening up my focus.
You got kind of get razor focused. And I understand exactly what you mean, because with just me combining the law and the real estate, it was interesting, because at first when I did law, I was like, oh, okay, I could do crim, I could do this, I could do that. Check it out. Did you see? I could do, I just tried my hand at different things. And so couldn't do the criminal because it was just too many miles on my shoes. I'm like, I can't do all that. That's just walking all over, messing up the louvers. No, just kidding. I'm just being messy, but it's true. And I was like, not doing that. And then I don't like to be lied to. That's another thing, right? It doesn't really work good with me. And so then I looked at bankruptcy, and then I'm like, okay, but if, there's like the different chapters, 7 or 11, obviously, if you're going to do an 11, you're a business, you're reorg. So there's some money there, but not really that much money on the 7 or the 13 side, try to save the house. And so then I was like, but everything that I learned along the way is helpful to the area of law that I do, because you'll see all these things play. So I know in real estate, I know how to stop a foreclosure. I know how to do those things.
Like me, you found a niche in your industry that you...
So then I narrowed it down to real estate, just real property, probate, trust, protect the assets, right? You got the assets, you got the real estate, you got when somebody dies, if they don't have anything, there's no need to probate it. So there's got to have to do with assets. And then if you had the trust and the things around that, then you're protecting the assets. And so once I narrowed the business, like my law practice, no, I just do real property, probate, and trust, and I just do real property sales.
Same with termite and pest control. The termite and pest control industry is so broad. I narrowed it down to just a handful of things to focus on, and it's just smoother that way.
I am not wanting to let you go, but I want to know, just give me an idea. So if an idea when you started, like what could a potential investor like if they were investing in a property, what numbers should they be looking at? Like, just give me an idea of what's a safe place to be.
Okay, that's
I know it's a lot more to it than that, but
I have.
We could get you a course. We could get you a course, and because at least you won't be selling people a dream. Well, you actually got the knowledge.
I can't give specific numbers.
Right, but you could give me an.
Basically, what I pattern my life, and I built my portfolio, including stock market. I'm more of a, I know this is a cliche saying, but I'm more of a quality versus quantity type of person.
Okay.
And one of the things I tell young people is whatever moves you're going to make sure they're permanent. Make them slow, strong, permanent moves. So to answer I hope I'm answering your question. I go into a property looking at the number. Again, one of the reasons why I come to the table with a big down payment is I want to set my numbers up so that they're strong. It's a higher probability I'm going to hang on to that property. Okay. Too many people, when they get into the investment game, they're trying to hold.
Are you trying to hold or sell? I'm sorry.
I'm more
of a holder. Holder. Okay. You got to know how to hold them, know when to fold them. But go ahead.
The thing about investments is, okay, another thing several of my mentors told me, do not get emotionally attached to your investments.
Okay.
If you bought a stock, it doesn't matter if it's your first one or reminds you of your daughter. If it's a dog and it needs to go, then it needs to go. And I got into a situation during the lockdown where I had to make hard decisions. And I had to sell 2 of my duplexes because my ship was in rough seas. And I had all my cargo. And if I tried to hang on to the whole ship, I could have ran the risk of the whole ship sinking.
Wow.
But I knew if I pushed 1 or 2 crates off, I'll probably be okay. So I had to bite them. Like you said, if it's got to go, you got to know when to hold them. But you got to know when to cut stuff loose.
Yeah, and fold them.
And as much as it bothered me, I had to cut those 2 duplexes loose.
To hang on.
Yeah.
So
save the rest of the portfolio.
Yes, yeah, and I love that. And so a safe. Okay, if you don't want to give me exact numbers, and I'm only trying to get here because I know how difficult that is, because you're kind of giving it out, but but if I was gonna say a number, like what is a safe return that you should be looking at? Well, if you're all cash, that means everything that you charge in rent is because you still got some maintenance.
I'm a long-term thinker.
Okay.
So even if the first couple of years, it's like when you start, same with getting this podcast up and running, it's probably going to take months before you get all the bugs and you get traction going, all that stuff. Rental properties, investment properties are the same way. Sometimes the first, I know people don't want to hear this, but sometimes you might not make that much money in the beginning. I also tell people one of the reasons why I got into rental properties wasn't even for income. It was to offset too much income. So let's say you know a young
yours
couple.
Yours is different, yeah.
Let's say you know a young couple, they ain't got no kids, they're both high income earners. Them buying a rental property and actually breaking even or even losing a little bit every month, they'll actually make more money because now they get to use it for deductions and write-offs.
In my son's case, tons of money. 26 years old, tons of money.
Another way wealthy people, and this has been talked about in the media, about them not paying their taxes, is how you use assets sometimes, not just only to make more income, but you legally through your CPA using tax, you use those assets to pay less taxes.
Yes.
So even though you might not be making more income, by paying less tax, you keep more income.
You keep more income.
You still making more without making more.
Exactly.
So that's another reason why I'm big on real estate.
I do not. I had a good conversation with you, and I'm just and I know I haven't touched the surface, but I want to ask you this before we wrap up, and also want to allow you to speak freely. But are there how about any pain points? Are there? I mean, you've had all this like great success, and I heard you talk about some of the different struggles. But are there any pain points? How's your mental health? Like, are you?
Well, this is what I tell young people that I mentor. One of the reasons why a lot of people don't become entrepreneurs and why a lot of people don't get into sales is they can't handle the emotional swings. So it's not really one particular pain point. I could give you stories where, things didn't go my way.
No. Yeah.
But really it's the general fact that the average American is comfortable Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. A boss tells them what to do. They show up. If things go well, they get a bonus. They pretty much know the workload will be the same. They pretty much know that the paycheck will be the same. Being in commission-only sales or being an entrepreneur, self-employed, it's just every day is a question mark.
You have no idea where it's coming from if you don't make it.
A lot of people can't handle those swings. They can't handle that. Most people like their checkbook, even though there's nothing in there, they like it to be the same number. They can't. I've seen my checking account go from 660,000 down to 23,000. People they can't handle. I showed my girlfriend once. So the first of the month, I pay all my mortgages, right? So I said, babe, I want to show you something. So I went into my bank and I showed her all my mortgages. Yeah. So I showed them all to her. And I go, what do you think? She was like, I got stressed. She got heart palpitations just looking at my mortgages.
Yes.
Now you spread that out over a business, consulting, being an attorney, doing this, trying to get this off the ground. Paying your staff, Most people can't. It's not so much. So to bring it back to you, I'm hoping I'm asking you a question. It's not any one particular pain point. It's just most people. So if you decide to take that journey, that's the part you have to be prepared for.
Yes.
It's the emotional ups and downs.
So dealing with that mentally, is that the reason that you made fitness such a big part of your life?
I think so. I also, because I remember we were talking, I don't think it's a coincidence that my health and fitness journey from being overweight and out of shape, and if I told you how big I used to be, you wouldn't even believe me.
Oh, tell me.
But I find it interesting that journey and my financial journey happen to be parallel. I don't think that's a coincidence. So I believe, in fact, there's a guy on social media. He actually he puts health and fitness and working out first. Even before making money.
My son is a workout.
He said, once you're healthy and fit,
my daughter,
it makes everything easier. Somebody also, I read a quote somewhere, you could be really, really, really smart, and you could have 2 PhDs. Walking down the grocery aisle, no one's going to know. You could be super wealthy and have the fattest wallet, but if you're just walking down the grocery store, no one's going to know. But if you see somebody that's really fit and in shape, that's something you get to carry that with you every day. It's almost it's like a reserve battery that gives me juice throughout the day. And it keeps my metabolism up, and it keeps my mind sharp, and it keeps me healthy and fit. And I have a lot of energy. So.
It looks like it, Charles. You might have me beat.
But yeah,
so are you doing anything? What do you do with the fitness part? Are you just working out on your
everything?
own? Or?
I've done it all. I train and compete in combat sports. I used to train, teach. I used to compete. CrossFit, kettlebells, obstacle course races, strength and conditioning. I've trained in about 9 different combat sports. I think there's been a bunch of them. I like to keep the variety throughout the years. You go through phases, and all. The main thing is that whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm training in, whether it's I'm in the gym or whether I'm on the mats doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I always train hard. I make sure that if I'm going to put aside time from my busy life, I want to get my money's worth. So I don't just show up to punch the clock.
So so when I say fitness, does that include like how you meal? Like, do you like, are you all specific about how you eat?
I have a very boring diet. Are you
like, I would like to have the vegan, the vegan soup or the vegan cookies, please?
Anywhere we go, if we were all to go out to lunch, I'll let you pick. I'll find something. It doesn't matter. It's not, life isn't what you do once in a great while. It's what you do on a regular basis. I follow what is called the 80-20 principle. So if I'm strict with my eating 80% of the time, I ain't going to sweat the 20. So.
Well, I am not liking this wrapping up because I think I got to spend more time with you. And I want to thank you for coming and spending the time with us. We are like not having a whole bunch of time, and there's just so much more. But you know what? I feel your energy. Your energy is like reviving me. So I feel like it's usually me that I'm walking in the door and people are like, oh my goodness, I just feel like you have so much energy. And I just feel it.
I'm normally more energetic, but I barely got any sleep last night. So normally I'm a little. The dial's a little. I'm just so tired.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Let me tell you, I appreciate you coming. I respect your motivation so much. I thank you for sharing. I'm
glad. I feel very honored you had me today.
Oh my goodness!
I feel so fortunate to have been asked to do this.
Oh my goodness.
I've never done a podcast before. The fact that you would ask me to share something in my head I find very, very humbling. So.
Oh, thank you so much. I want to thank you so much for coming on the Black Aristocrat podcast. I am going to coronate you and give you this king crown. Your Highness, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I get to keep this? Really?
Yes, yeah.
Why did you keep?
I bought these for y'all. Yeah. It's get my king. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to subscribe right here, right now to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on all socials at Alisha Melvin ESQ and #Black Aristocrats. Thank you so much for joining us.